you reduce the team. You've built a very significant team at ALSF. You're obviously surrounded by a fantastic group of people, some of whom are on this webinar today. You've no doubt had your fair share of recruiting for the various organizations that you've been involved in. Tell us a little bit about some of the qualities that you seek out when you're considering employees. You know, what are the things that you look for when you're hiring people? And then conversely, what are some of the qualities that you've observed that you consider to be turnoffs? Because I think that's quite an interesting perspective from you as a senior leader.
That's right, Cynthia. I think those are very important issues that you are highlighting. So what I was actually saying, in my previous role, I was supervising, I would say maybe about 8 directors and 200 personnel. And on average, I was chairing recruitment panels almost every month, at least 2 or 3 panels. So that was quite heavy. Then I came to the facility and had to recruit afresh. So really, you develop the knack of identifying the best talent that you can get, and the talent is out there. I think the first thing you look in the eyes of the person and look for that enthusiasm, burning fire to execute the mandate. And you also there are some things you look at, like attention to detail. You might consider it light, but you can always tell if the person will have attention to detail. And where we've tended to concentrate, and miss that out, you end up seeing that in reality, in practice, the person fails. By attention to detail, I mean, if somebody comes to your interview and they've not even looked at the website of the institution, then please don't even go to the next step, because that person doesn't have the fire in their belly and will not attend to detail as you expect. And then teamwork. That you can only tell when the person comes on board. But as a CEO also, I was lucky. A small institution, it is easier to build a culture. There are certain values that you expect in a workplace. If you build them, your team can relate to them. So if somebody joins and you realize that they are not ready to adopt the culture that you have created, then those are red signals. So you look for teamwork. If you have younger people who have not worked in many places, they are usually more adaptable to a new work culture. I also realize that. But that doesn't always follow, but in terms of comparisons only. So you can shape them, and they should be also ready to learn, because we are all learning all the time. I am still learning.
Absolutely. And just, you know, on the, I guess, just that last comment you made about learning, what would you say would be the biggest lesson that you've learned as a leader? Or put a different way, you know, what are maybe some of the biggest challenges that you've had, thinking particularly about this time that you've just concluded at the ALSF? What would you say has been the hardest thing?
Well, I would say that I think the major issue you have is what I was trying to mention, the human skills. People call them soft skills, but I think there are people around calling them now human skills. So you need the technical capacity. That's what they sometimes call the hard skills. That should already be there, CV, education, and so on. But the additional skills is that human skills. Is the person responsive? Are you adaptable to change? Which means you will accept innovation. When I came in, I think my team, the team that was there and those who came subsequently, didn't expect me to be that responsive. Fortunately, I've always been responsive. So we embraced technology. Actually, by the time the pandemic hit, we were far ahead in terms of working offline. We didn't need to be coming to this office. So you can imagine, what does that tell you? We started embracing technology in my second year. And most of it was innovation by the team themselves, young people who had already knew and they were researching what is happening, following up on ideas. So I think that innovation part So that's all part of the human skills. Does somebody have the enthusiasm to know? So the challenges come with, in terms for an institution like this, in terms of, we had challenges, first of all. As an institution, we had to sell ourselves, first of all, to the governments to trust you. How does the government entrust you with a multi-billion-dollar investment when they by nature, the governments are secret? Then we also had to raise resources. How do you convince benefactors that they provide you with resources for an unproven idea? Because as I said, some of the comments we got initially from potential donors was, you want us to pay to hotshot lawyers who are already getting millions of dollars, you know, the usual thinking about private sector lawyers. So you need to prove the idea. So we had to prove the idea. And of course, the other one is building the team. Those were major challenges. But through persistence, once you are convincing, you have to be convincing. You have to believe in the mission. And I think we turned that around and everybody started believing in us. But the trust idea, maintaining trust between the institution and the stakeholders is a critical thing. They have to believe in you and likewise your team. So you impact that onto the team and explain to them. There are certain niceties that you have to learn. I mean, you have to have the humility for people to understand that you are delivering on something that you believe in.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, given everything that you've now achieved with your time at ALSF, you are passing on the mantle to Olivier Poignant. Today's your last day. What would you say, what would you consider to be some of the key hopes that you personally have for the ALSF? You know, what would you like to see the ALSF become or be in the next 10 years from now?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, very important, Cynthia. So we are lucky that the governing bodies of the facility just managed to extend the lifetime of the facility for another 14 years after 2022. So we are talking of 2036. We now have a brand. Everybody understands, or most people understand what we do and the impact that we bring on board. So what is my biggest hope? So my biggest hope is that we can make our resource base sustainable. That's my first big hope. Then the second big hope is increase of understanding and utilization of African lawyers. We've been depending mainly on external lawyers because of the procurement competitive practice that we inherited.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, when you're getting resources on grant basis, they insist on procurement processes that are competitive, and our African law firms are not yet that competitive. Not all, I mean, there are very few that are, and we've used quite a number of the African ones that we felt are that were competitive. So I think that's the biggest part, because remember I started by saying we set our mission to be attaining sustainable legal capacity on the continent. So I want those big deals to be negotiated by mainly African lawyers, African law firms, in that 10 years and so on going forward. And I want governments to know, they already know, but to increase their going to the ALSF as the go-to institution for their deals and so on.
Yeah, and I think, you know, all of us on this webinar would definitely second all of those ambitions. So yeah, looking forward to what happens next.